You're watching Fox 17 News, Nashville in Focus.
Happy Sunday morning, everybody. I'm Scott Couch. Welcome to the show. As normal, I have two Democrats, I have two Republicans, a slew of topics dealing only with metro and state government. If you're looking to talk about the Trump administration, there are other shows. Keep on tuning. But we're talking local politics. Let me introduce our guests, and we will wade right in. Rick Williams back with us for the first time. Is this the second time you've been here since you got married?
I think that's true, yes.
Well, welcome back, and our best to
apparently
Diane
it's working
for
out. I
loaning
still
you.
got the ring on.
Perfect. GOP strategist, worked in the Lee and the Ogles campaigns. Jasper Hendricks across the hall, Democratic strategist, current chair of the Metro Fair Board. Deborah Maggard, who's former Tennessee House Republican caucus chair, with us again, and with us for the very first time, Tucker Carnes. I have you listed as political strategist and former Tennessee Senate advisor. How is that for a title?
Sounds just fine. Happy to be here.
For you?
Yes, sir.
Welcome. Guys, let's wade in. There was a Vanderbilt poll, and we talk about these when they come out. They do a pretty solid job over at Vanderbilt. Interestingly, they found that 67% of the respondents, talking to folks across Tennessee, more Republicans than Democrats, 67% said, I'm worried about having enough money to pay my bills, the economy. 24% said, I want lawmakers, when they go back to work in Washington, I should say in January here at the state capitol, to concentrate on the economy. 70%, so 7 out of 10 said, I'm worried about my retirement savings. Am I going to have enough money to retire? My question is, and we'll start with a person who's been in the legislature, are lawmakers listening? Because I know you have your ear to the ground. And what can the legislature do to help people who are worried about these things? This is real life.
Well, I think that the Republicans will continue to do the things they've been doing. You know, we've done a lot of tax cuts since 2012. I think it's like $5.2 billion. Everybody wants to move to Tennessee because we are we've got a great economy here in our state. You know, we've done a lot to do job creation. We've cut the sales tax on food. I know that some people think that maybe we haven't, but I remember when I was in the minority, we would try to get the Democrats to do that all the time. They wouldn't do it. And then the Republicans have done that in the past. You know, we still have our sales tax holidays. We've done a lot to cut red tape so businesses will move here. I think people also don't understand what government can and can't do as far as the levels, you know, of that kind of thing. But again, we've got the highest inflation we've ever had, and we can thank the Biden administration. So it's going to take a little bit to try to bring the economy back. You know, it can't happen overnight, but I do believe the state will look into that, and I know that the Trump administration's been trying to work on it too.
You know, inflation is part of it. Jasper, we'll go to you next while we're on that side of the table. A couple of weeks back, the comptroller, and maybe more recently than that, Jason Mumpower was talking to the governor and department heads when they were making their request, and he was kind of letting everybody know it's going to be a lean budget year. Inflation's running about 3%, and the growth in terms of what our projected revenue is expected to be somewhere between 2.25 and 2.35%. So it doesn't sound like there's going to be a lot of money to argue over.
No, it's not. And those tax cuts that Deborah mentioned were all tax cuts to corporations, not to people. And so, you know, so when you're giving tax cuts to companies in hopes that they move here, and then when they do make an announcement that they're moving here, and all of a sudden we're slowing down, we're not gonna be doing just like Ford out in West Tennessee.
The Blue
Oval City has now been delayed. We also now see that SK has split from Ford. We've seen jobs, every week that there are companies that are announcing, hundreds of layoffs. So we do have to, the legislature should take a look at what they can do, and there are things that they can do. Number one is they can ask the federal government to release the BEAD funding, and BEAD funding, it's about $600 million that's sitting there that the Trump administration wants to claw back from Tennessee, but that money can be used for affordability programs. It says it in the description.
Sounds like TANF dollars. These are not TANF dollars.
It's also TANF dollars, and people keep saying, well, that's only for a particular group of people, but you can help someone, right? You can help you can help a few people, instead of just helping no one, and so that's about $800 million that's sitting there, that still has not been allocated or still hasn't been used.
So you're saying they have options.
So there are options that they can do, but they choose to focus on things like expanding, creating a second education system. They focus on giving tax credits to major corporations.
Rick, speaking of, I guess, the education component, I know Governor Lee is in favor of expanding the Education Freedom Scholarships, and the House Speaker has been in the newspaper and making some public speeches in the last week or so, where he is also indicating that he wants to expand that. Can they afford to do that this year, and is there political will to do it? What are you hearing?
Well, that's the question. I mean, with a lean budget year, I don't know if there's going to be money to be able to expand that. I think it's the right way to go, and I like it, but I don't know if how much expansion they do. And then the governor's looking at, some people are trying to get him to do a pipeline for the Duck River issue. That's probably going to be $2 or $3 billion. I mean, I don't know where the money's going to come from. And
is that tunnel idea, and just so you guys are familiar, there's a water shortage in southern Middle Tennessee, trying to figure out a way to solve it. Some people want to recreate the dam on the Duck River down in Columbia, and others have said, let's divert water from either the Cumberland River or the Tennessee River through a big pipeline like they do with oil. But I thought that was dead.
Well, no, it's not dead at all. TDEC would love to do it that way, and others want to do the dam. So it's a separate issue, but the point is, these big projects, and Governor Lee in his last year, I don't see the funding coming around to do either one, maybe, but I would say if he had to pick and choose, he'll go with expanding his education program before he'll pick a new program.
I'd say you're right. I don't want to leave this topic, but I've got to squeeze in a break. Tucker, I hate to do this to you, but rather than interrupt you the moment I give you the mic, we're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, we'll pick the conversation up right here. You're watching Nashville in Focus.
You're watching Fox 17 News, Nashville in Focus.
Welcome back, everybody. We're talking about the economy, the forecast for the coming fiscal year as the state legislature prepares to reconvene. Tucker, I hated to make you wait before the break, but I didn't want to interrupt. Your thoughts? I mean, this is a heady topic. People are worried about the economy, and then you've got lawmakers trying to pass a budget with limited resources.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that people are worried about the economy right now. We'd love to wave around our AAA bond rating and all these awards from like Tax Foundation or whoever, but people can't make campaign ends meet in Tennessee. They're living paycheck to paycheck way too often. And so I think our fiscal success should be determined by the health of our Tennessee families rather than, our overall state budget. It's nice that it's balanced, but it's balanced by law. So if it's 2.25% growth and 3% inflation, we now have a math problem. They say, show me your budget, I'll show you your priorities. So we're going to have to see in a transparent fashion what Bill Lee is willing to cut out of his budget to make up for that shortfall. A lot of that is self-inflicted. They've been doing corporate tax breaks, $1.5 billion in corporate rebates in 1 year. I don't know where they're going to find $144 million for a private school discount program if
and
they
that's
have that
just
much of a
what it
shortfall.
would cost to expand it. I think they spent $450 million on it this year. And on the jobs front, just to be transparent, there was a recent announcement out of Montgomery County. The exact company I don't recall, but it was over 900 jobs. And so there is, to your point, continued growth, but there is pressure on that money.
Can I say something about the
Please,
vouchers?
please.
So when I've been talking to some House members, they are concerned about this, and they're also concerned. I think that what they want to do is maybe look at the program and see how it's working, possibly before they start putting more money into it. That's what I'm hearing when I talk to members. I haven't talked to anyone in leadership about it, but when I've been talking to members, there's some talk about that.
Well, we know what the Speaker wants, but 2 years ago, members of the House and Senate, they kind of said no. Even though the governor wanted it and the speakers wanted it. So you're sensing some of that just based on economic realities?
Right. Well, why not take a step back and look at it and see how it's working before you maybe put more money into it? It's what I'm hearing. So from people.
What do the Democrats say about that?
Well, when you take a look at the numbers, the numbers, recently released numbers of our public school systems, the numbers have increased, with the success of our students. And so I think that that's
graduation rate scores,
graduation rate scores, right? All of that has increased. And so how can you justify not continuing to put money into this where every locality can benefit versus a program that only a select few? And so I think those are the questions that they're going to have to answer to their voters, to their constituents. And I mean, looking at the last election, the 7th Congressional District special election, you know, if the message, those counties were against the voucher program. You know, a lot of those counties were against the voucher program. So if we keep hammering that, and if we keep going in that, like it could help us, I believe, in making a dent in some of these seats if they don't listen to their people.
It's going to be interesting. Do you think there'll be enough opposition? Because, you know, if you opposed the governor on this, I guess 2 years ago, if you were up for re-election, some of you disappeared.
I mean, there is often hell to pay if you oppose the governor on vouchers specifically. Even in the 7th congressional district, the Republicans saw money flood in from pro-voucher groups. So, yeah, it's a dicey one. But if I were them and I was seeing that roughly 7 in 10 beneficiaries of the voucher program were people who are already in private schools, I'd probably want to wait a year or two to see more results if I were them.
And I wish we knew for sure this is all sort of anecdotal, but, you know, because they don't ask, you know, where's the money going and that sort of thing. But the Republicans have conceded that this was never really about trying to allow low-income folks to get into private schools, because if you know what private schools cost, even if you give me $7,200, I'm still going to have to come up with that much or more to get my child in a good private school, you know, around here anyway. I don't know what they do in other parts of the state, but I know what it costs around here.
Yeah.
Guys, let's wade into a new topic. The TVA board, it was a topic in the U.S. Senate in the last couple of days. There was a Senate committee that was to take up the nomination of Lee Beaman, a Nashville businessman in the Pepsi-Cola bottling, you know, business and in the car business for so many years. And he got himself nominated to the board. Rick, let's start over here, because I can remember back when this, I guess, first came up, I remember maybe you saying that Beaman would be a good guy to be on the board, but they put off his nomination because they wanted to look into a house that he owns in Washington and maybe who was renting from him. Are you concerned about the success of his nomination?
I'm not. I think in the end he'll be confirmed. I hope he is. He's a smart businessman. He's kind of retired from all those businesses now and has the time to actually be a full-time board member and can really delve into issues that TVA has. And for someone who's been meddling about the dam in Columbia and all that, I've gotten to know TVA really well, and there are a lot of things they just like an old dinosaur. They need a fresh set of eyes on them, and I'm glad President Trump's fixing to put 5 new people on the board, and I hope Lee is one of them because his business background would be good. He owns a house in Washington. Even Speaker Johnson was living there till recently, so it's not anything unusual, but of course there's a lot of Lee's a Trump person, and there's a lot of pushback from Democrats against Trump. I mean, it's very political up there right now. So hopefully that will all wash out and he will be confirmed. I hope so.
I don't want to leave the topic, but I need to squeeze in another commercial break. You're going to get the first bite at the apple again right after this. You're watching Nashville in Focus. We'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 17 News, Nashville in Focus.
Right before the break, we were talking about national businessman Lee Beaman's appointment to the TVA board and whether it's in jeopardy. A subcommittee vote on that got put off. Do you feel good about his? What are the Democrats saying about Lee Beaman? He's
Honestly,
clearly a Republican.
Yeah, if I were Lee Beaman, I'd be a little worried about my nomination. There is smoke around the TVA, and I'm worried that there is fire. Specifically around privatization, it's been bandied about by Donald Trump. It was even talked about by Obama in 2013. And I think Tennesseans really don't want that. And I think a lot of the members of the Senate don't want that necessarily. So there's a lot of demand for energy generation, especially with data centers, AI, et cetera. And I think people think that we might be able to sidestep some environmental regulations if it's private. I think TVA needs to stay in public hands. I know it's a public-private partnership right now, but the worry about it entering private hands. I know Lee Beaman has said he doesn't want that to happen. I'm not positive I believe it. I'm a little worried that if he's put on that board, that TVA is in trouble.
And we are moving forward with plans for a small nuclear reactor. I can't remember exactly what they call them, but it's a not as big, 300 megawatt.
Small modular reactor.
Yes, that's exactly right. Small modular reactor.
I've actually heard that
What
the
are you
Republicans don't want to vote on this and that they're going to just let his nomination sit there because it expires after December 31st.
Is that right?
Well, I've heard that. I've heard that twice lately.
So
But I don't know.
even some in the
I mean, I'm just
GOP
telling you
you're
what I've
hearing
heard.
may be concerned about Lee Beeman being on that
Well,
board?
I don't know if they're the Republicans here. They might be other Republicans in the Senate might not be who want to vote on it.
Well, I heard on Friday that both of our U.S. senators were asked about it but declined to say anything. Jasper, you hearing anything? State House.
No, I actually haven't been there this week. Yes, I have, but I was on travel this week. But I think that it should be looked at because we don't know what the agreements were, and I think that's probably a big question as to what are the specific agreements for them living in his home there. Are they paying fair market value? What has he benefited, if anything, if he's benefited by having them staying at his home? So I think those are the questions that are coming up.
Now, you used to live in D.C. It's an expensive place to live, and a lot of congressmen live, like we're both congressmen. We might be roommates in a place to save some money, and I think that's fairly common. I mean, who do people rent from up there?
So my boss, she rented a one-bedroom apartment with her sister. She didn't have to go find somebody else. There are people who actually make common sense decisions, about this, and or they will stay with family members. There are some that actually stay in their office, because there is a shower, there's a gym and a shower downstairs.
There's some members that stay
there's some members that do stay in their office.
Are you allowed to do that? I would imagine they would.
Yes, yep. And so there are things, there are options, for people, and there are places around the Capitol that do have sort of like special rates because you have per diem rates, and government rates
Where it would
at
line up
hotels.
where this money will cover your expense.
Yeah. So there are options that people have.
Interesting. I'm nearly out of time. I'm going to go ahead and slam the door on this topic. Let's take a break right here. We've got a final segment during which we're going to discuss the latest effort to kill car racing at the Nashville Fairgrounds. We'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 17 News, Nashville in Focus.
In our final segment, we'll talk about the future of car racing at the Nashville Fairgrounds. I've got the current Fair Board chairman on the panel this morning. Rick, there's a group that is wanting to circulate a referendum to, I said Rick.
Jasper.
Yeah, but wanting to circulate a referendum that would essentially obliterate it from the Metro Charter, saying it's going to be banned. They have to get 10% of registered voters to do that. Have you heard about this? Are you concerned about this? What are your thoughts?
I read about it. I received an article about it. I'm not concerned about it.
I mean, do you think it's in danger? Do you think car racing is a good thing at the fairgrounds?
It's not going to be. They need 60,000 signatures in order to get this. You're
That's
right.
hard to do.
That's a lot.
Right. Yeah. In a window
For a charter
of time.
referendum. Yeah.
Also, so it has to be within a window of time. So I don't. Yeah. So no, I'm not. It's just another stall tactic.
When you pick up a recall or a charter resolution, I think you have 30 days or 60 days.
It's over 30, 60, 90 days. Yeah, 90 days.
Yeah, but you got a certain period of time. You got to get a lot of signatures. Now, everyone knows John Ingram. He wants all that property.
The man who owns Nashville SC, he's against it.
I guarantee you, Rich Reedling told him he would have all that property one day.
Yeah.
If you remember, the soccer commissioner was here one day.
I remember that.
And he talked about, well, this is going to be the Gulch too. I'm like, well, how do you know this is the Gulch too? Have you ever been to the Gulch? You must have been there, and you must have
Somebody must have said something.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't just, it was a slip of the tongue, but he let the cat out of the bag when somebody told him they were going to have it all out there, and it was going to be another Gulch. And so it's been a constant fight. I've been with a group called Save Our Fairgrounds for 15 years now, and
I knew that when you were going to be on the show this week.
And I'm adamant about we should save the track. The fair has moved on. It's in a better place in Wilson County. It's a great location, has plenty of room to expand, plenty of land. It can get bigger and better every year, but the racing is more historic, that the racing has been there for so long, and so many famous drivers have driven there. I mean,
Darrell Waltrip.
Yeah, Darrell Waltrip, but
Sterling Marlin,
Sterling
Cuckoo
Marlin.
Marlin.
Yeah.
And we have quite a few people in our Hall of Fame, like Richard Petty.
Yeah.
And,
But
and
who was the
so
driver that passed away? It's his son drives now.
I can't remember.
Anyway, he said he would come out of retirement and drive
And do
if we
that.
did a race there. So can't believe I'm not able to call his name
Oh,
today.
there's so many. We write.
Yeah,
we
but
have a picture that we share on the news a lot of times of the fairgrounds, and I share some of those facts. Tucker, you're aligned with the group that's against this, and I know there's a position there.
There is. So I don't want to say too much about it because I am aligned with the coalition and work with the coalition that's working on this effort. I do think that that coalition will be able to get those signatures, but it came together. It's a broad-based coalition of advocacy groups, environmental groups, and neighborhood associations around there that have been fighting this battle for a very long time and would like to see
Including the
something
councilwoman, Terry Vogt.
That's right. We're
Yeah.
happy to have her support.
What's the deadline to get the signatures?
So the petition has been filed. It'll go through a number of metro processes, and then a 90-day window will start. We have to get the 53,677, which means you really have to get over 60 to
make
get
sure it
verified.
lasts.
Exactly.
Yeah, to Jan's point,
and
about
then
60.
it'll go onto the ballot and be voted on by Nashville, which is really the overall goal. If Nashvillians want auto racing to continue there, they'll say so, and if they don't, they'll say that too.
And they did vote, Deborah, I don't know, X number of years back, and 70% of them say, yeah, let's have a racetrack there. What are your thoughts?
Well, when I was a little girl, my uncle was a partner in the racetrack.
No kidding.
Yep, and so I remember going there not very often. It was so loud,
Oh,
so
yeah.
loud.
Sure is.
And,
Still is.
It still
Extremely.
is.
Ask
and
the
so
neighbors.
that is something, to think about, that those folks in that neighborhood, they do hear that noise. So maybe they could get the 60,000.
They're not going to be able to get it because the agreement that is currently sitting on the mayor's desk has provisions for sound. It has provisions for everything that the people are asking for. The one issue that we have is those people who are opposition have been meeting behind closed doors, where we have open door meetings. So we don't actually know who's involved. We don't know who's funding. Rick threw out a name, but we don't know because they're hidden behind their tax code. And so it's really not. And when you look at it, it's really just a couple of people. It's the same people that show up and they say their little spiel when they get called out for not being in a meeting, for not coming to the meetings, because everything that they ask for, we have affordable housing, we have green space, we're building, we're
I'm going to have to leave it there because I am flat out of time. I want to thank all of you for coming, all of you for watching. Educate yourself. We'll see you next week on Nashville in Focus.